This is a Film Stories original podcast.
We made this.
Welcome back, everybody, to the X-Cast. As ever, the truth is in here. I'm your host today, Carl Sweeney, and thank you very much for joining me for this episode all about the penultimate episode of Season 5, the 19th episode of the season, Folie. Deux. And I am absolutely delighted to be joined by my podcasting 1 in 5 billion, Sarah Blair. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Carl. How are you?
Yeah, really good. It's been quite some time, I think, since the two of us have recorded together. Well, we did Detour, didn't we, with Tony?
Yes. That was fun.
That was fun. We've done some Fight the Future minutes with Tony, like upcoming, but I can't remember the last time you and I did a podcast together. Just us.
Yeah. Good to have you back. Or I guess it's good to have me back since you're the host.
Yeah, I should be the gracious one, it's true. I got a feeling I have to check the files. I have to check the X-Cast basement files, but I think maybe Kitten in Season 11 might have been the last time we spoke.
Oh, wow.
On a solo episode together, yeah. But we're here for this one, which is good. It's Folie Deux. Like I said, it's written by Vince Gilligan, directed by Kim Manners. This episode first aired in the USA on May the 10th, 1998. And this, of course, is the episode in which a call centre employee becomes convinced that his boss is a monster who is hiding in the light. So, Sarah, what do you make of this episode? Are you a fan of this one?
I like it. It's not one that I watch often, but after I watched it for this recording, I thought, why don't I watch this more often? It's a good episode. My favorite part probably is the performance.
Skinner's appearance.
But, well, you know me, Skinner. He's in this a lot, and I can't wait to talk about his scenes. You know me.
Yeah.
But Brian Markinson, I thought, does just a fantastic job. I think he really carries this episode.
Yeah, he's really good. Like, what would you give this episode out of 10 then, if you had to pin a number on it?
I think I'm going to go for a 7.8. Not quite an 8.
That's
but
very
more
specific.
Than a 7.5.
Yeah. Fair play. I'm a bit higher. I'm like 9.0 on this one.
Really?
Yeah. I've always really liked this episode.
Yeah.
I think, like you kind of hint at, it's like really well performed by a lot of the key players.
Yeah. I think the acting saves it.
I don't know about saves it. I think the acting elevates it, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's creepy, which is interesting because they had some issues with the monster and stuff. Like we talked about Detour, didn't we? And like Detour, I think this episode has some elements that like maybe are a bit reminiscent of some other episodes. But as with Detour, I think this one kind of becomes its own thing as well. It's got like an unconventional structure, really, but in a way that really works for me. I feel like the rug is pulled out from under us a few times in a way that is actually quite appropriate. And I don't know, above all, what do you think about this? But I think there's some great Mulder-Scully interaction here too, in a way that feels like something of a progression, something we haven't quite seen before. And I think in that sense, it feels like a nicely placed episode too, because we're kind of gearing up for the feature film at this point, aren't we? But yeah, what did you make of the Mulder-Scully kind of dynamic?
I liked them together, and I think I enjoyed watching Scully kind of try to struggle with her willingness to believe Mulder, but her rationality. And I think Gillian Anderson played that really well because she wanted to believe Mulder so bad because he's Mulder. But she also, kind of saw it from this objective point of view where she was just, she was trying so hard to rationalize it and make it scientific. Yeah. And this was just not something that could be explained until you actually experience it for yourself, which, she finally did. But I thought that was I can't wait to talk about that moment because it was really good. I tried not to get ahead of myself, but I do really enjoy this episode. And I think probably, like you said, we're going to talk about the monster because I have some thoughts about that. But I think that's probably, why would rate it lower, but overall I think it's a really fantastic episode, and there's a lot going on with it. It's really meaty.
Yeah, and also, like I say, kind of come in before the film. And I guess it's kind of notable then in the sense that this is the last standalone episode of the original run, filmed in Vancouver, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it's not necessarily a classic Vancouver episode, just in the sense that a lot of it takes place indoors, so we don't get the woods or anything like that, but still notable. And you mentioned, the monster, so there's some interesting background there, because I think during production, so the creature was played by somebody wearing a prosthetic suit, and there was a lot of concern as they were filming the episode that it looked kind of ridiculous. And, apparently Kim Manners thought it would ruin his career and all this. And,
oh dear.
Yeah, they used some trickery to kind of mitigate that as best they could. And apparently that went on, right to the last minute. Apparently the effects work was only finished the day the episode actually aired.
Oh.
Yeah, right down to the wire. So is that what you're kind of talking about? You found some of that a bit of an issue, is it?
Yes.
Yeah?
That is absolutely it. I liked the zombie people. I thought they were really well done.
They looked good, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the monster just was not scary. I mean, I might equate it with the not scariness of the banana slug, which I know you...
Wow.
In Roadrunners. I know. The banana slug just doesn't frighten me at all. I'm not on board with that. I know a lot of people really are scared of that thing, but I can't take it seriously. I can't take this bug thing seriously either. And I think probably Kim Manners had a lot to do with this, that their acting abilities are so above and beyond wonderful. They're just really talented, and they did such an excellent job acting that I'm sad that the monster didn't come up to par to match that, because I think it could have been really terrifying. But it's just their acting almost seems a little over the top in comparison to the monster, but they were acting probably to nothing, or just this big giant bug suit. Considering what they had to work with, I thought they were amazing. This is well done. But
I'm looking forward to talking about this, because I wonder if the monster works better, kind of like you say, perhaps, does it work better as a bit of a metaphor than as an actual monster? Mm-hmm. I mean, what some of the people involved with the episode say, I think it's a bit of a truism, really, that, what you don't see is more scary. Which you could argue kind of fits the script. The script is about everyone, or almost everyone, not being able to see what's confronting them unless they're really ready for it or know where to look. But I think I think I found the monster more effective back in the day. And I think now, with the kind of big HD TVs and all that stuff, I think maybe the seams show a bit more than perhaps at first. But I think you make a fair point. This seemed like a pretty well-received episode critically when I had a look around. Mostly good reviews. And I saw one from Robert Shearman, which I thought was interesting, because he kind of compared this episode to Bad Blood. And he says that this episode does something that one couldn't, because...
Really?
But both episodes, they kind of examine Mulder and Scully's competing perspectives in a way. But he says, this one is also an effective monster story in the sense that you don't really get much of a sense of threat from the vampires in Bad Blood, perhaps.
Right.
But it sounds like maybe you don't fully agree, because you maybe think the effectiveness of the monster isn't quite there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was really interested when you said that you had to compare them as being, I just couldn't get there with my brain. I don't know. I didn't see it. But then you said the thing about, the monsters not being a real threat. But, I mean, I felt like the bug was definitely a threat. I mean, he's turning people into zombies. That's creepy.
Yeah.
That's really I mean, and no, Bad Blood is more of a humorous take on it, and there's not much of a threat, which, goes with the theme of the episode. But Folie is meant to be frightening, I think.
Yes.
And it is. I mean, it's very scary. So I'm having a hard time, I guess, grasping what he's trying to go for.
I don't think he was slamming Bad Blood necessarily.
No.
I think he just thought they were this was a different approach for the same kind of, the competing worldviews thing of Mulder and Scully.
It's early. It's 6 a.m. where I'm at, so maybe I just haven't had enough coffee yet.
Always make Sarah get up ridiculously early. For
It's
these,
all right. You don't make me do it. I choose to do
No,
it.
we
I
don't.
love this show. That's my dedication, Carl, to the X-Cast.
I'll tell you what, on IMDb, one of the trivia, like you click on the trivia section, and one of the entries says, it is never explained how a giant bug can drive a car. That made me laugh.
Have they not seen... in Men in Black, he drives a truck, right? Hello? Yes, they can, apparently. Giant bugs can drive cars, Carl.
Yeah.
This is,
Anyway, also on IMDb, obviously there are people who rate this episode. Like, what do you think this episode would have on IMDb? What do you think it's rated over there?
Okay, I really was good this time, and I did not look.
Didn't cheat.
Usually I
Good.
look beforehand, but I was good. I'm going to say somewhere... Well, I know season 5 is really high.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to say like an 8.2, 8.5.
8.7 out of 10.
So close.
So you're not far off, yeah. Can you redeem yourself by guessing how high, you line them all up, top to bottom, where does this one come in? Is it in the top 10, do you think?
Yes.
Come on, give me an exact number. I want to see.
6.
Right, well, this is equal 5th for the season.
Oh.
It's equal with the Postmodern Prometheus on IMDb.
Oh.
Can you guess which episodes might have come in above it?
Let's see. 5th season. You're making me work for this, Carl.
I'm like the bug monster boss who kind of overworks his employees. Bad Blood is the top one.
Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man. Is that 5th season?
That's season 4.
Season 4. See, this is bad. I'm a bad X-File. Oh.
Do you need me to help you out?
Possibly. Give me a hint. I can guess.
They're all mythology.
Oh.
2, 3, and 4.
Redux.
Yeah, that's 4. The first Redux is number 4.
Redux 2.
Is number 2.
Gethsemane.
That's season 4. What's the last episode of season 5?
The End.
The End is 3rd, yeah. We got there.
Excellent.
I mean, joint 5th, yeah. I've always rated this one pretty highly, so I think that's... I'd have this above The End, I think. But yeah.
Yeah.
Not too many complaints from me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's break this one down, I think. Let's talk about Folie in a bit more detail. Okay, so we start off with... I really like how it kicks off, actually, with this overhead shot of these banks of desks in the call centre. You know, I think this episode doesn't put too fine a point on some of the things it's doing. I think we obviously got the connection here. The employees are like worker drones, aren't they?
Dial and smile, Carl. Dial and smile.
I love that guy. Do you know why I love that guy? Because I used to work in a call centre for a brief period. Yeah. Have you ever worked in such an environment?
I have not. Well, kind of. I used to work for this... It was kind of a modeling agency, but it was more of like, I don't know. I think they just tried to get people in and make money off of photographs, like headshots and all that. But it was my job when I was starting out to call people who had signed up to get more information. Mm-hmm. So I would call and try to convince them to come in and get photos and sign up and, be like, yeah, we want you for a model. Come on in, So... It was basically that, yeah, basically a call center. But I was by myself. It wasn't, one of these call centers.
I worked in for a company that was very much like this, and the supervisor, the dial and smile guy, he just reminds me of my supervisors, basically. Just these people who'd swallowed all the kind of corporate bullshit the company puts out, kind of internalized it. And I think, obviously if there are people listening who work in a call centre in a position of authority, I'm not saying this is about everybody, but I think my experience would be shared by a lot of people who worked in these kind of places, that it's kind of impersonal. So yeah, we hear Gary's on the call, isn't he? And he hears that kind of trilling noise, the insect noise. And we get the first sight of the monster behind the glass, don't we? The kind of fluttering effect. And like you say, I think Gary's... the actor, Brian Markinson's very good at being, increasingly disturbed, isn't he?
Yeah, he gets, really sweaty and, really anxious, and I really think he did a great job. I can't imagine trying to act scared like that to nothing but cameras.
The bug suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do too. I think that when I was first watching this, I was thinking that this is somewhat similar to, like, do you remember the episode Blood with the guy who sees the electronic messages? I was thinking, like, we've kind of seen this before. Is this episode going to play out along similar lines to that? You know, and I think that's one of the good things about this episode, isn't it? You know, I think seeing it here, you might think that Gary's the focal point for the entire episode, but that's not how it's going to play out.
And then you get the bug, and you get this hint of something more coming.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Do you actually see the part of the bug, right, in the scene? Yeah. I feel like they kind of phoned that in.
We don't get we don't know about Pincus yet or anything like that,
right.
I don't think. And then at the FBI building, so they're in Skinner's office.
Yes, Skinner. I was so excited, because usually when you see the FBI building, it goes to Mulder and Scully. You don't get to go straight to Skinner. I mean, come on. It's my man.
Well, he's sending them to do a risk assessment, and Mulder's immediately nonplussed, isn't he?
Right.
You know, monsters, I'm your boy. Why do you think he takes that kind of approach? Why do you think he's so bothered by this assignment in particular?
See, that's the thing. That's the one thing that kind of bothers me about this episode, is that Mulder is almost... He starts off a little too much. You know what I mean? And I feel like he's playing a little hard on this scene. I think if maybe he backed off just a tiny bit, it would have been more of a progression towards madness. But he almost seems a little mad already, you know, but in a different way, in a different sense. But, I mean, at the same time, he goes from one extreme to the other, which is very Mulder. Let's talk about Skinner for a second, but not his forearms. Yeah. Not his rolled up sleeves.
I didn't really have a note about Skinner, so yeah, what have you come up with?
Well, I just this goes back to my issue with them not using him enough, because I feel like he's so underused. Mm-hmm. But as an actor, Mitch Pileggi just, he is carrying, Skinner is carrying all this stuff inside his head, and he knows what he needs his agents to do, but he can't say it out loud because he's the assistant director. And if he starts talking about all this paranormal stuff, you know, he's not going to have a job in 5 minutes. He's got to play his cards close to his chest. And that's what I love about Skinner is, as a character, is he wants so bad to just spill the beans with Mulder and Scully. And then, you know, in season 11, we figure out why. It's because he went through all this stuff with Vietnam, and he believes in the paranormal. And examining this episode from that lens that we now get from season 11, it makes it so much better, because we know, Skinner's on their side, and he's sending Mulder out here to check out this creepy thing, because that's his specialty, and Skinner wants the truth. He wants Mulder, and nobody else but Mulder is going to find out the truth, and he knows that. So it kind of makes me mad that Mulder gets angry with him, because he's got his best guy on the job, and his best guy is just so mad at him. It's poor Skinner. You know,
Skinner is the victim.
He is. He's just trying to do his job. He's just trying to put his best agents on the case. And, you know, here he is, having to deal with this jackwagon Mulder who just flies off the handle. And it makes me mad for him, but yeah.
Well, he can take it, I think.
He can handle it. He's a man. He's got it.
Well, I definitely thought it was... I can see it from Skinner's perspective. It makes sense to me why he's sending him on this assignment. Mm-hmm. I guess Mulder's attitude... I was thinking maybe it kind of fits with the episode's overall vibe, which is about being a bit disenchanted with your working environment, isn't it? So...
And a little bit paranoid, too. I mean, but when is Mulder not paranoid? Let's be real about that. But
well, that's what he talks about with Scully outside, isn't it?
Yeah.
Obviously, she's a bit more open-minded about this one, but I thought it was a nice touch in that scene. Did you notice how his fingers were still bandaged? Mm-hmm. He kind of puts his hand up to his head at one point. They were still bandaged from the Pine Bluff variant, the previous episode. So that was a nice bit of kind of inter-episode continuity, wasn't it? Which you don't always get in his early years.
Yeah. And I think probably, you know... It's been a while since I watched Pine Bluff Area. I love that episode, though. But I think, you know, Skinner's probably still thinking about that, too. So, yeah, there's a lot of leftovers from that in this episode, which is good. I like that. Because, you know, with the X-Files, you don't, like you said, you don't get that. And these days in the streaming, you know, world that we live in, where everything is connected and it's basically one extra long movie, you know, it's nice to see that.
It is, yeah. So they decide that Scully's going to stay behind and, you know, help out over the phone. So Mulder meets with the boss, Pincus, played by John Apicella. This is where we hear about the phrase hiding in the light. The boss doesn't recognise the voice because he says they have 96 employees. So again, you get the sense of this impersonality of the corporate environment there. He mentions, which will become crucial, there was this other violent incident at a plant in Kansas City. I mean, what did you think of this actor who played Pincus? Because I thought he was good because when he comes on, you think he's quite benevolent and kind of kindly.
Right.
But he's also good later on when that kind of starts to turn as well, I think.
Yeah, I liked him too. I kind of thought he played it well because, you know, as a viewer, you want to believe the status quo. And you want to believe this guy is just nuts, even though you kind of know something's going on already. But I don't think it ever occurred to me at the very beginning that the boss was, you know, anything but nice. And he does play it so well. He's just like, this guy, like, I just want to help. I just want to, you know, yeah. And you want to believe that he just wants to help and he's not some creepy giant bug. But yeah.
So, like, with Scully back in the office and, like, she turns up the thing, you know, the reference to hiding in the light in the old case file. And that was an interesting dynamic. And I think first time round, I probably thought this was how it was going to play out over the whole episode. You know, kind of like in episodes like, I guess Chinga would be an example, wouldn't it? Where Mulder's on the phone
or
the whole time.
Crephages, yeah.
Or that one, yeah.
With the bugs, at least, yeah.
But no, it kind of moves through the gears quite quickly.
Yeah, I liked, you know, that scene where Mulder's got a photographic memory, you know? And he's like, Scully, just find this random thing that I'm thinking of that I know exactly where it is. But, you know, just fine. Just spend all your time looking through these hundreds of case files to find what I'm thinking of in my mind. Like, that's so Mulder. And poor Scully, she just goes through and just does, you know, she finds it. Like, that's amazing to me, how she can just look through all these files to find some obscure reference that's in Mulder's brain. And it kind of made me mad for her. I was like, Mulder, just get back to the office and do it yourself, man. Like, come on. That's so rude. But it's so Mulder.
Yeah, well, these days they'd have it all computerized, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And it'd be like Control F, hiding in the light, and it'd be done. It'd be so much easier.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, the company starts calling in all the employees one by one. They start with Nancy Aronson. I thought it was interesting, first of all, that Gary still turns up to work. Mm-hmm. Because that's not what I would have done, I don't think. If I saw a bug monster, I would probably have a day off. But yeah.
At least one, if not quit altogether. If I start seeing bugs at work, I'm gone. Yeah. I mean, I'm out of there. Sorry.
I suppose it maybe speaks to the broader theme that, like, you know, the company's got you kind of by the short and curlies, you know. But this is where we see Gary's view of Pincus as the monster. And do you think there's enough ambiguity about whether this is all actually taking place? Like, did you ever doubt? I mean, you were saying that you don't want to see Pincus as a bug monster, but were you ever in doubt about whether that was what was going to happen?
No, yes, maybe. I think, yeah, because I'm sorry I didn't look up the lady's name who plays Nancy, the actor, but she plays it so well. She's just like so chill about it. She's like, it's no problem. It's fine. Just don't smile, Gary. And she goes in and then, you know, you hear the scream, but then nobody else hears a scream. You're like, what? What's going on? And then she comes out a zombie, and you're like, what? Oh no, this is terrible. But yeah, I did not believe that Pincus was a bad guy until you hear that scream. But then nobody else hears it. Mm-hmm. So then you're like, oh, well, maybe he's just imagining it. But then she comes out a zombie, and he sees that she's a zombie. You're like, okay, that's very intriguing. Like, I was in it. I was ready to find out more. It's very effective.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting to do an episode where you really play up the ambiguity for like the whole hour. But I don't think they have to. I think we know the show well enough. We know the kind of rhythms. And I think doing it this way is very good too, that it kind of, it gets to the point quite quickly that by the halfway point, it kind of pivots. But we talk about, we see Nancy as the zombie, and this is, I think, where maybe what we were saying earlier is relevant, that I think maybe this episode works better as a metaphor about, like, modern office work or whatever. Mm-hmm. When you actually stop to think about, okay, so there's a giant bug man who can appear as a human, and then when he bites people, they turn into zombies. I don't quite understand how the mechanics of that all work. Like, and I'd compare that to something like Squeeze, where, that's similarly implausible. There's a liver-eating mutant, he can stretch himself, he needs 5 livers every 30 years to hibernate.
Implausible? No, Carl, that's perfectly normal.
But I never questioned that, whereas here I'm kind of thinking, like, what's actually going on here? And I don't think the episode maybe is a 10 out of 10 on that front,
Uh-huh. I didn't actually consider that, but I can see it's, like, very clear, now that I actually think about it. I'm not that deep, Carl. But no, I definitely can see how it could be a metaphor, and I liked it. I like it as that. Like, they're just all worker drones. It might have been better if perhaps the monster was maybe a giant bee or some kind of drone type, like a queen bee or something.
A giant battery hen or something.
Yeah. But yeah, and they were just all the worker drones that are just mindless doing their job. Yeah, that could be a cool metaphor.
Well, I think, I'm kind of glad they didn't kind of hit people over the head with it too much as well, though, to be fair. Like, we never get a scene where Mulder's like, this is what corporate America's doing to people, Scully. I think that might have been too much, but I like the fact that Mulder, when he listens to that tape, he's kind of taking it seriously.
He's using his Oxford profiling skills, which we never get. So we've got the photographic memory in this episode, and we've got Oxford profiling skills.
Well, I thought it was interesting that we heard Gary, because at the beginning of the episode, he's kind of quite disinterested giving the call to the customers, and then here it sounds quite committed to this performance on the tape, to be fair. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was good. And we see him loading his gun. I think it's about this point, isn't it, that Mulder wants Scully to come down and join him.
I told you so. I told you so, she says.
I think thinking back on this episode, I thought it took us longer to get to that stage, but no, it's actually fairly early,
It is.
And that's when Mulder turns up at Vinyl Right, which is deserted, and Gary pulls a gun on him from behind. So yeah, we're into a hostage situation, aren't we? Tense stuff.
Did not see that coming. Did not. I thought the call center, when he came in, it was after hours or something like that. Everybody had gone home, but then Nancy peeks out. She's like, "Just get down." And you're like, "What's happening?" And then he comes and he's got the gun, and you're like, "Oh, so this is that. That's cool. Okay."
Yeah, it's like this is one of those episodes. I think that's what I was thinking. Probably the first time I saw it, it was probably like, okay, this is going to be like Dwayne Barry. It's going to be hostage situation for the rest of the hour. And I think it was cool that we saw Roger Cross as Agent Rice on the scene. Scully talks to him.
Yeah.
We've seen him in a few episodes, and I think even up to season 11, he's in Familiar, isn't he? And he's always playing these kinds of figures, it seems, which is fun.
Yeah, good times.
So inside, Mulder's got this kind of neutral demeanour, hasn't he? While Gary's talking all about how Pinks is going to make everybody a zombie. I thought there was some nice tension in this scene,
Well, I think I like that Mulder gets to be his most Mulder in this episode. We get the Scully, it's me. We get all of this stuff that, as an FBI agent, he's supposed to be. And, usually he doesn't, Mulder doesn't play it by the book, but here he gets to, which is fun to see. I like watching Mulder be straight up FBI man. He's like he's a profiler. That's originally what he was trained to do. So he gets to be in this hostage situation, and he was just robbing banks a minute ago or whatever. So that's kind of like the reverse of that. So that's kind of interesting. And like, he's doing such a good job too. Like, he's being really smooth. He's talking to him. He's trying to talk him down, but at the same time, like, every time he turns around, he's like getting his gun ready. And then Scully's outside screaming, like, "Don't call him! You're gonna ruin it! Don't call him!" It's like, really, it's so intense. It's very, you know, it had me, like, on the edge of my seat.
It's good drama.
Yes.
It really is. Yeah. Because, like, Scully's right, really, isn't she? 'Cause,
yes.
like, when the call comes in, that's when Gary finds his gun, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, Gary mows down one of the employees who charges him, which will become significant a bit later. Gary actually does seem properly disturbed, to be fair, doesn't he? Because, like we say, he turns up for work when he's already seen a bug man. And then I think, you know, he wants his desire to get on TV and get his kind of 15 minutes of fame that they talk about. That's kind of interesting approach too. Again, it's not what I would have done, I don't think.
Well, I don't think when the FBI guy said that, or he's police, you know, he's like, he just wants his 15 minutes of fame. It's like, no, he wants to warn these people about these bug zombies that are coming for them. And I don't feel like they really took that seriously. I mean, they shouldn't, but I mean, who would? But at the same time, it wasn't for attention, you know? He wasn't trying to get attention. He was trying to... I think they should have maybe approached it the way Mulder did, with him, you know, believing him. I mean, Mulder is Mulder, so he actually, you know, wanted to believe him, but I don't know if any of that makes sense. But, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I mean, I still don't think that... I don't think he'd thought it through in the sense that it's clear that other people aren't seeing what he's seeing.
Right.
So, like, why would putting him on TV kind of move beyond that? But still, he justifies himself at this point because he talks about... This is where the metaphor comes in, I think, because he says, like, he wants us all like that. Mindless drones. Wants to take away who they are. And, yeah, when I worked in that call centre, that's kind of how I felt, you know, because it was just such a repetitive job. And, like, I remember one day, they were so kind of strict on us as well, because... I think I used to work 9 till 5, and I signed off my computer one day at 4:59.
Oh!
And I got shouted at. It's like, "Hey, Carl, dial and smile."
Dial and smile till 5 o'clock on the dot.
Just that kind of environment, you know. Anyway, so Gary goes on camera whilst holding Mulder at gunpoint. So again, there's some good stuff here. Like the cameraman manages to get a sneaky view of the room with a twisted camera cord or whatever it was, you know. Mm-hmm. All this stuff was good, I thought. Like Mulder intervening when it seemed like Gary was going to kill Pincus, the lights going out. And then, of course, when Mulder finally looks and sees the monster, that's a great moment, I thought.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Because, you know, and I mean, if anybody's going to believe, it's going to be Mulder. So, you know, of course that makes sense. And I really like that. I mean, the Folie is, you know, at the end of the episode, she says it's a madness shared by two. So, like, you know, it's interesting to me that it came right at the end, like right before he gets shot. And then, you know, Scully doesn't believe and doesn't see the monster until right at the most dire moment, you know. So I wonder if that has anything to do with it, that you don't see until it's...
So you're ready to see.
Yeah.
I think it does, because I think, like, the title at this point, it seems like it's referring to Mulder and Gary, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, they're the two who've seen the monster. And then it's at this point that it kind of pivots, and then the rest of the episode is about Scully coming round or to sharing in what Mulder sees. You know, so I thought that was kind of clever, you know, because obviously Gary is taken out when the bulldozer, or whatever that was.
This is like a giant tank coming through the freaking wall. I think that's a little bit extreme. Just a tad. But, you know, I guess for 8 hostages or however many, it wasn't that many. But, okay.
Well, I can forgive it. I thought it was good.
Yeah. It was very dramatic, at least. If we're going for drama. It was. And, I mean, like, I would love to have been, you know... It's like in that writer's room or whatever. It's like, let's have a tank come through the wall. That would be fun. You know, just bust some stuff down. That would be really satisfying.
Well, like, apparently they kind of did all that on a soundstage and stuff. So I imagine it was a bit of a logistical feat.
Yeah.
You know. All right. So second half of the episode, And Mulder's obviously, his demeanour changes now because he acts completely differently to Pincus. Mm-hmm. Almost this kind of surreptitious interrogation that goes on.
Because he's seeing him as a giant bug, right? Or almost. Yeah.
I suppose that would change how you act with somebody, to be fair.
Just a little.
But Scully, of course, isn't there yet. She doesn't know what's going on. You know what Mulder's like when he gets the bit between his teeth, don't you? Because then we see him at the office and he's like charting all these different places where it's not just the phrase hiding on the light, it's all the kind of variants of it, which are kind of similar.
Right.
And he's found 7 cities over 10 years, most of them close to where Vinyl Right, the company, is based. But this scene has that great moment where Scully talks about Gary being disturbed before Mulder says he saw it too. And I really kind of felt for Scully at that moment, you know, because you kind of see how she kind of takes it, don't you? I
like how, you know, Mulder is talking, Scully's just like, no, like, Mulder, no. Like, the way she just said that, she's just like, no. Because I'm sure she can see where this is heading with Mulder. I mean, she probably, obviously she's been here before many times with Mulder and his madness, and then she goes in after she just straight up, just no. That made me laugh out loud when I saw that. And she, you know, then she goes through, like, her scientific explanations, it's visual agnosia, and, you know, she's throwing out all these reasons. She's trying so hard to justify Mulder, and I really liked this conversation between them because it just shows their dynamic so much, like how much she truly, you know, tries to make up for him and his ideas and tries so hard to rationalize his far out thoughts. And just, I mean, I always love watching. Yeah, I always love watching them together. I mean, I could just, if it was just nothing but them talking together, the whole entire, like, 11 seasons, I'd be fine with that. They're just their dynamic is just so interesting, and they just play it so well, and I really enjoy watching those two.
Did you enjoy him walking out on her, which is what happens? Because he wants her to autopsy Bacchus, who was the one who shot down, but she says no.
Yeah.
He kind of storms out. So he goes to Gary's house, and it's kind of a nice parallel because he's also got a chart on the wall where he's been kind of like tracking this guy's movements across the country, just like Mulder did. And they both get these kind of POV shots. Like, so we get it here, I think, when we see Nancy in the yard as a zombie. And like Gary we had some shots from Gary's POV earlier. So I liked that kind of the theme of the shared experience, I think. This is when Nancy is driven away by Pincus, who, you know, shows that giant bugs can indeed drive a car.
I was shocked because, you know, she gets in the car and you kind of don't really see her, like, you know, and then it shows him driving. You're like, dun dun dun, bugs driving cars.
Who knew? What did you think of the scene with Scully and Skinner then? Like, it's where Skinner wants the insight into Mulder's behaviour.
Okay, thoughts, Carl. You know, I have thoughts about the Skinner scene. Like, it made me want to know, like, how different would the entire show have been if Mulder and Scully had just freaking trusted Skinner and they had all been in on it together and worked together and their relationship had been productive? Do you know, like, how much they could have accomplished? Like, it just underused. Makes me so frustrated every single time. But, you know, I love how he's like, I need insight into Mulder's behavior. Like, I just love how he's just so straight line, you know, like, he's like, please tell me what is going on with Mulder. Like, he cares about Mulder, but he can't say that. So he's trying to, like, do his very best to be the assistant director and play it straight and cover his tracks and his butt and everything for the reports. I mean, he's like, he has to speak like he's in a report because he doesn't, I mean, and you think about it, he doesn't know if he's being bugged in his office. He probably is. And so he's got to play it straight, and he can't, like, say what he wants to say. He knows what's going on. He knows Mulder well enough. He knows Scully. And it just really, like, annoys me that she just won't Like, but I mean, I guess at the same time, like, she has to be careful too, and she knows that. And it's like, why can't they just go meet in the secret garage or something and say what they want to say? You know, like go to the. Yeah, it just frustrates me because I want that show, you know? Like, I love the X-Files and I love the paranoia and I love all that, but, like, imagine how amazing it would be if Skinner and Mulder and Scully had all worked together to, like, solve these cases. Like, they could have just done so much. It would have been amazing.
Don't you think, though, that it works that their superior can't be too indulgent of them in a sense? Because, like, they're in this kind of offshoot department that's not really taken seriously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe it gives it a bit of punch in that respect. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I mean, this is the X-Files is like what we're talking about. He has to be that way. And so I totally agree with you. Like he can't do that. But yeah, I need to just write my fanfic and be done with it.
Well, more Skinner, I can definitely agree. Would have been a good thing.
Yeah.
And I like the moment here where, like, Scully's like, okay, I'll join him there, and he's like, well, hey, you got this autopsy to do, haven't you? That was sneaky and Mulder, I thought.
Yeah.
So she does the examination of the guy, external exam only, but the time of death doesn't track. It looks like he's been dead for longer. So again, just this idea that, like, working for a living can kind of suck the life out of you.
Yeah, did you catch that? You know, when she's calling Mulder on her cell phone, and then she gets the out of service or unreachable message, like his phone is off.
I didn't really pick up on that, to be honest. What do you think that's significant?
Yeah, so I mean, I just think it was interesting because that's like right around when you know he starts going nuts, and it's like, that's interesting. Like, why is Mulder's phone off? Like, what's going on with that? You know, I wonder if she had heard that message. Because she wasn't really paying attention to it, you know? If she had heard that message, I wonder if she would have been like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Something's going on with Mulder. Can't reach him.
We'll never know. So, Mulder intervenes when Pincus, as the bug monster, is about to attack the woman. Well, actually, he's too late, isn't he? Because she does indeed turn into a zombie. And we get the monster... Well, I like the moment where the monster's climbing up behind him. And then we also see it scurrying up to the roof. And I don't know, is it this kind of scene you're talking about in terms of the effects not really being up to scratch? Is this what you mean?
Yeah. You're not going to get that bug with a fly swatter, that's for sure.
Anyway, this all leads to another Skinner appearance, doesn't it?
In Chicago, he actually got on a plane and went to rescue Mulder. Yeah. I love it. I love it so much. It makes me so happy. He's taking care of his boy. Anyway, sorry.
No, well, I liked it too. And I also like Pincus during this scene because he's kind of magnanimous. And then also, like, behind Skinner's back, you know, when we see him, you get that smile, you know, obviously he creeps up on Skinner. Just this sense that he's, like, toying with Mulder, I enjoyed, I think. Yeah,
and Skinner's just trying so hard to, like, tug on that leash. Be like, Mulder, like, just hear what I'm telling you. Just please. Like, he is begging him to just chill out for 5 minutes until they can get through that meeting. It's just like, Mulder, come on. But yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that it kind of jumps forward then, and like Mulder's just been committed or whatever. Yeah. So it kind of would have been interesting to see how that kind of came about, you know. Yeah. But Skinner, anyway. He's just a magnificent bald eagle. I would have liked to have seen a little bit with Skinner in the hospital and like get it, because he knows like he's like he wouldn't have had him taken to the hospital if he didn't know like something's really going on with him. Like maybe he thinks taking him to the hospital get him some help and like whatever's going on he can just get it out of his system or whatever. He's probably thinking like he's drugged or something, because I mean, when his Mulder, you know, not he's probably like, oh, he's probably drugged again. Like how many times has Mulder like been drugged? I mean, we've got, was it Paperclip on his side, you know? And he's like had to like attack him in the hallway. He's like, oh, Mulder's drugged again. It's fine. We'll just put him in the hospital and tie him up for a little while till he gets it out of his system. Mulder's drugged again. It must be Tuesday. Yeah. Well, I love that scene in the hospital though. I think it's a very meaningful scene actually. Like, you know, 5 years together, you must have seen this coming. And it's true, like he'll be hospitalised again, like in the Biogenesis trilogy as well, won't he?
But we get it here. And Scully's kind of like, the case is over at this point, isn't she? But Mulder's like, you have to be willing to see.
Yeah.
And she says, I wish it were that simple. And Mulder says, Scully, you have to believe me. Nobody else on this whole damn planet does or ever will. You're my 1 in 5 billion. Just a great exchange. What did you make of it?
Yes. Great. I love it. And, I mean, it's not really the kind of scene you would expect from this sort of episode, but I just love when they get those moments. It makes me so happy. My little shipper heart just beats for this. It's just beautiful.
And again, I just think it's really well placed in the sense that, like, Fight the Future is going to come up and test their partnership a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I liked that this was right towards the end of the season, I think.
Right. And then you get the end right after this. And
yeah.
It's like, really like that they got to solidify their partnership there in that scene. And then it all goes to hell, which is,
What I liked in this episode is, like, so that Mulder starts off by, like, reluctantly going on this assignment for Skinner and actually finding something meaningful. And then, like, here, Scully's reluctantly back at the autopsy lab and, she actually finds something, doesn't she? She finds the puncture marks in his neck. So I like the idea that she'll really go the extra mile for Mulder when he desperately needs it, which I think comes through in this latter part of the episode,
Yeah.
Especially in that sequence at the hospital. So we get Mulder with the nurse. First of all, I think that saying sleep tight, don't let the bedbugs bite to a patient who fears they've seen a giant bug monster is not the best thing to say. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kind of made me wonder, and then it goes and it makes sense later. But one thing, Scully was doing the autopsy in Quantico, right?
Yeah.
Is that where the body was?
I think so.
But then Mulder's in Chicago in the hospital.
Yeah.
How does she get back and forth so fast?
It's best not to ask these questions, I think. I don't know. I didn't really think about that. But yeah, it's a good point. Like, how far is it? Is it a quick flight or what?
I mean, it's like a 2-hour flight.
Okay.
2-ish. A little over 2, probably. But still. I mean, it seems like really immediate,
It does. The way it's edited together, it does.
Yeah. But this is the X-Files, so we don't ask questions.
I'm going to have to give you a yellow card for introducing logic to the discussion. So,
whoops. My bad.
Well, no, we
Never
see...
again.
Yeah, at the hospital, Mulder, the shadow of the monster outside is what he sees, and then he calls for the nurse. He uses the same phrase as Gary, it's here. And I thought Duchovny was very good at, like, raving away. I thought that was good.
Oh, yeah. Really good. But what... Oh, no, I've already got a yellow card. I'm not going to say it.
Go on, go for it.
Why doesn't Mulder see the nurse as a zombie?
Well, I was wondering this, but is it because maybe he's been sedated here?
Oh. Well, that makes sense then. Okay. I'll take that.
That's what I was thinking. I don't know if that entirely works.
I mean, I was kind of thinking, like, if she had just been bitten and hadn't, like, changed yet, but then at the beginning when she gets bitten, she's immediately a zombie.
Yeah.
So I like your idea better.
But we see the marks on the neck anyway, so... The nurse won't allow Scully in, will she? It's after visiting hours. And again, this is another good moment when you get the camera move into Scully's face, and then she sees the nurse as a zombie. And that was very good, I thought. Very effective.
Yes, absolutely. Scully saves the day. She can see.
Bursts in, yeah.
She can see the zombie.
Yeah, she bursts in. The monster flees. They get the monster away. So Mulder's fine. The monster lives another day. So that leads us to Skinner's final appearance in the episode. Yeah, Scully and Skinner, do you see merit in Mulder's claims? What did you think of this whole scene?
I liked it a lot because, I mean, I feel like, Scully is being Scully. She's slapping down the facts. She's trying to... And I like their dynamic because, Skinner has to be like the topmost rational of the three. Yeah. And then Scully's kind of the go-between, She takes Mulder's, whatever Mulder has got going on, and sort of distills it down and makes it digestible for Skinner so that he can put it in his reports and make it sound acceptable, So I like that she's sort of that go-between and that she does such a good job at, making with the science. She's like, well, I found a toxin. So that's like hard evidence that they can use. It's not identifiable, but it's a toxin. Yeah. It's there. It's evidence. And so that's something you can put in an official report. A toxin that cannot be, it's an identified toxin. Yeah. So, that's something that people are going to believe. And that's something that you can attribute all this to. Like, well, all these people were acting nuts because they were on drugs. So just blame the drugs. And how she describes the zombie people, and they're like, well, all these people who Gary had identified as zombies are now gone with Pincus. Yeah. Like, what's that about? She raises these questions without actually making them, and then she's like, well, and then he's like, can you describe the intruder? She's like, well, she's reaching. It was dark. And she doesn't want to say it. And he doesn't make her say it, because he knows. And that's what I love about Skinner. Is he gets it. He knows. And so he's not going to, make her say it. And she's like, well, that's the truth as well as I understand it. Because this kind of stuff can't be explained that they're dealing with. And he knows that. And she knows that. They know. But,
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, I thought it was really interesting that we didn't see all of what she says. It cuts at a really interesting point. I would love to have seen what happened next, but anyway. And then we get Mulder and Scully outside in the hallway, and then going into the elevator. So, yeah, a nice little capper here, I think, isn't it? She told him the truth as she understands it, and she talks about Folie, adieu, and madness shared by two. Again, another nicely played little scene, wasn't it, between the two of them?
I feel like Folie à Deux could have been a nice alternate title for the X-Files.
I see what you mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. Perhaps a less commercial title. Yeah. An appropriate one.
Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah. Well, I think this final scene that we get, it's another call centre, another employee who hears the insect. It's here. I mean, it shows you can't keep a good monster down. And I think this particular story suits the classic X-Files unresolved ending quite well, I think. Do you think so?
Oh, yeah. I mean, how many times has an episode ended this way? Another monster, another day, another call center. It's all the same. We know.
Mm-hmm. All right. Agent Blair, should we have a look in this week's X-Cast mailbag?
Let's do this.
Okay, so pretty positive stuff in this week's mailbag, to be fair. So Tommy James said, I loved the episode. It was one that actually freaked me out when I was a kid. Kylie Portnow said, I love this episode. I feel it's overlooked a lot, but I think it's great how Mulder gets the madness. The writing, directing, and acting by Duchovny is particularly good, especially in the hostage scene and when Pincus is behind Skinner.
Very creepy.
Yeah. Tony Black says, really quite a bizarre episode when you look at it cleanly, and one structurally of two halves. Hostage drama and Mulder sees the monster that probably shouldn't work, and yet it's pulled off really deftly with skilled plotting and a fine script. It's also a decent slice of satire on corporate work conditions that you could just as easily remake today. A fine standalone episode.
That's an excellent insight. We should have that guy on the show.
Yeah, he's got potential, I think, yeah. Uh-huh. What do you think about what he's saying there about the structure of it? Do you have any... Did that bother you? Did you appreciate it? What did you think of that?
No, I liked it. I thought it worked really well because, you said previously that, I don't think it would have worked if they dragged it out to end with the hostage scene. And then, what if that had been the end of the show, and that was it? It doesn't work as well. I like that they split it up into the two parts because then you get the dynamic of Scully trying to believe Mulder, and it's so much better.
I think they could have done the hostage scenario for, the bulk of the episode well enough. I just don't think it would... I think it probably wouldn't have been spectacular.
Right.
I think that it's better the way it panned out. I think that I think it was done very nicely. Right, Cortlan Waters Bartley says, I really like how this is an episode that brings Mulder and Scully's different perspectives together. I absolutely love the moment when Scully sees a zombie nurse, both in terms of how it's filmed, but also as a moment of realisation for Scully. I think overall this is a really pivotal moment of coming together for Mulder and Scully, right before we move into the end and fight the future, which is kind of what we've chatted about a bit, I think.
Yeah.
Emma Wallace says, has anyone told Sarah that Mitch is going to be at Comic-Con Wales in April? Has anyone told you that, Sarah?
No, I have not heard that.
Oh.
Ew. What day in April? Because it's my birthday in April. That might be a nice birthday present for me.
It might. I don't know. I'd have to check. But it's actually Comic-Con Wales, as I understand it this year, is not actually in Wales.
What?
So it's in Telford, which is our side of the border.
Oh.
So yeah,
dare.
come and stay with me or Tony if you can go to it. Don't go to Wales.
Is it close?
It's not too far. Yeah, it won't take us too long.
Yeah. Excellent. Let's do it.
Happily drive you up there for a
I need to get my
price.
passport in order. But yeah, let's do it.
Good stuff. Okay, so Michael Little said, Folie à Deux is my favourite episode of Season 5. I love that it starts out as a stock hostage crisis episode and then everything changes. I was genuinely surprised when Mulder saw the monster. A great script by Gilligan with a nice blend of scares, satire and angst. The scene in which Mulder is strapped to the bed as the monster makes its way towards him is terrifying. My only issue is I wish there was maybe a little more ambiguity as to if the monster actually exists.
Yeah.
Still, this is a classic.
I think more shadows and more sounds would have been excellent. I don't know that we actually needed to see a giant bug.
It's tricky, isn't it? You need to see a certain amount to establish what you're dealing with, don't you? But the more you do, you come into some troubles too. So
I can understand Kim Manners' predicament.
Concern.
Yeah.
All right, just a couple more. Michelle Milbauer says, as a shipper, I must acknowledge Mulder's 1 in 5 billion speech. It is very reminiscent of an interview David Duchovny did years ago, where he said Scully is Mulder's human credential.
Oh.
So let me read out. She quotes what Duchovny said, so I'll read it here. So He said, I heard a phrase once. Somebody was talking about their wife. This was a person who was very inept socially, not the wife, but the man. There were many things said about him that weren't kind, and he said, my wife, who is lovely and social and everything like that, is my human credential, and makes him like a human being because people think, well, if she can stand him, he must have some humanity within him. And sometimes I think about Scully as Mulder's human credential. It's the only thing that makes him not crazy in many ways. So yeah, I like that take on it.
I like that too. That's so sweet.
Okay, finally, Andrew Levitt said, Folie à Deux is a brilliant penultimate episode of Season 5, underscoring the show's main themes. Like many Gilligan-penned episodes, it portrays a small character who wants to be bigger than he is, and Gary Lambert, who wants his 15 minutes of fame. Only his claims of a monster happen to be true. It's interesting that this parallels Mulder's desire to be bigger than he is by trying to expose a government who he believes is covering up the existence of extraterrestrials. Beyond that, their shared madness, and eventually Scully's, is a great way of paralleling the deeper truths at the core of the show that Mulder's claims for the past 5 seasons sound mad, and he has dragged Scully into this madness, signalled by her seeing the creature during the climax. The monster is really creepy, and the drone-like nature of the telecentre employees is a great metaphor for modern zombieism. This is a fantastic episode, and one of the show's best. Alright, Sarah, so we're just about done here. Where can people find you online if they want to find you and track you down?
If you'd like to stalk me online, I am on Twitter a lot. You can always find me on Twitter at Sarah L. Blair, and I am on Instagram at author.sarah.blair, and sometimes I'm on Facebook, but not very often anymore. And I try to hang out in the basement. I peek in sometimes, when there's talk about Skinner. I always have to head in there and see what's going on. Skinner's my homing beacon. You just, say the name and I'm there. But anyways.
So where can people go if they want to buy your book?
You can find my book. It's called Darkness Shifting. It's a novel. It's kind of like X-Files meets King Arthur. You can find that on Amazon. I'm part of the drones of Amazon. I'm the worker bees. Yeah. I've subscribed to, this great Zon, but it's fine. Yeah, I'm working on my sequel, so hopefully I've got a writer's retreat coming up, and hopefully by the time this airs, I'm going to have some significant... We'll see. I don't want to jinx it. Not touch wood. Yeah. Knock wood. Yeah. Spit 3 times, turn around. But yeah, definitely working on it. So there's another book coming eventually.
Yeah, good stuff. Really looking forward to it. Whenever it comes, I'm ready.
Excellent.
So, okay, Xcast listeners, find us in all the usual places. So, Twitter at the X_cast, Facebook, the X-Files Basement, as Sarah has alluded to, the Xcast Podcast fan group, lots of good stuff going on there. So we're coming towards the end of Season 5, listeners, but until next time, always remember, trust no one.
The Xcast, an X-Files podcast, is produced and hosted by Tony Black, alongside a dedicated team of podcasters and X-Files fans. You can find the show on Twitter at the X_cast, on Facebook by typing in the Xcast, or inside our group, the X-Files Basement, an Xcast podcast fan group, plus on Instagram by typing in the XFcast. If you're a fan of the show, why not support us on Patreon? Exclusive bonus episodes, early access to new episodes, plus become part of our Xcast community in the Patreon department. To see our monthly subscription options, just head to patreon.com/the Xcast. That's patreon.com/the Xcast. We'd love to see you join our Patreon community. We're also part of the We Made This podcast network at We Made This Pod on Twitter and We Made This on Facebook. You can find a range of shows on TV, film, music and popular culture in general on the network. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.